Guys, welcome back. Today we're working on single stage paint restoration. So we're going to be restoring the paint on this Lexus LS400 right behind me. This is a channel favorite, so I'm sure a couple of you guys are going to be pretty excited to see this vehicle on the channel and watching me work on this vehicle and showing you what it's like to work on it. We're going to be going over what it's like polishing single stage paint. We're going to be going over how to define if it's single stage paint or if it has clear coat, how to remove swirls, imperfections, light scratches or anything like that, and how to bring the luster back into this vehicle. So we're going to be also going over the quirks, the pros and cons of working on a vehicle like this. This video is packed with information, so let's get right into it. So single stage paint is pretty much a thing of the past. You're gonna find it on older vehicles like the Lexus LS400 here, older Mazda Miatas, older muscle cars like old Mustangs or Camaros, and older like Fords or Chevys, older trucks, even up to the Model T. So you're gonna find it in mostly older vehicles. We moved on to clear coat in the early 2000s all the way. So most of the vehicles nowadays on the road are gonna have clear coat. The way that we're gonna approach restoring the single stage paint is gonna be pretty much the same as we did on clear coat. So I'm gonna put the video right above my head here that I did before on the Shelby GT500 that I showed you how to pick the pads that work best on that paint. And you can pretty much refer that system, and we're going to use a very similar system here. So we have here the Manzona 3800. We have the Rupes yellow, and here we have a pad selection, which are 3 pads. So I have the black pad, white pad, and yellow. So it goes from least aggressive to most. We have a light in order to see what we're working on, and we also have a paint depth gauge. Now the paint depth gauge is a very important tool when it comes to single stage paint and actually clear coat. The gauge is going to allow us to know how much paint there is on the vehicle, so what the depth of the paint is from the metal all the way to the top layer. So in this case, we want to find out how much paint there is. This is a vehicle from the mid 90s, actually low 90s. So what we want to know how much paint there is left, because it's very likely that many detailers have already passed through this vehicle and have polished it, have cleaned the paint. So we want to make sure that we know how much paint there is so that we don't cut through the paint. So what happens is if we don't know the paint, then we cut through the paint, then we're gonna reach primer. And once we reach primer, we're gonna have to repaint that whole entire panel. The no-go zone for paint depth, as far as the paint depth gauge goes, it would be 70 microns. So anything under 70 microns is a no-go zone, or under 3 mils if you're working in mils. Anything under 3 mils is a no-go. So you wanna make sure that you're working on anything above 3 mils. If you're working on anything under 3 mils, then I suggest you don't polish it. And from my opinion, you can polish it if you feel like it, but I suggest you don't. I suggest you don't because you don't have too much paint left and you can't measure how much clear coat there is. So you can get an estimate of what the whole entire paint system has, but you don't know how much clear coat there is. On my next step, we're gonna define if it's single stage paint or if it has clear coat. And the way that we're gonna do that is gonna be along with testing the pad system that we have here. So first we're gonna test with the black pad, see how that works. And if that doesn't work effectively, then we're gonna step up. And if this doesn't work effectively, then we're gonna step up to the yellow and yellow combination. All right, let's get on to it. I realized I was getting a little bit ahead of myself here. So what we're gonna do first instead, before we start testing pads, is define if this is single stage or if it has clear coat. One good way to do that would be visually. So to look at the paint visually, point the light to it and move it around. Once you look around the paint like this, you'll start realizing that the paint looks very uniform, that it doesn't look like it has a clear layer on it. It seems like it's all in one piece. And that's because it is in this case. It is single stage, and I already know that, but this is a good way for you to tell if it is single stage. Another way would be to do the scratch test. So the scratch test, it consists of rubbing your nail on it. So if the paint is soft enough, you rub your nail on it, you should be getting some paint on there. But it seems like on this paint, that's not gonna work out, but it might work on yours. Another way that we can do this is with the polisher, as I mentioned before. So what I'm gonna be doing here is I'm gonna be using my polisher with a white pad and the yellow Rupes polish. First, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure the paint depth. So we're gonna measure the paint depth right now. We're gonna be checking right here to see what the paint depth is like. And we are reading 408. So now we know that there's sufficient paint here. We are above the 3 mils. So we clearly know that there's sufficient paint here for me to run a test. So I'm on the clear here. I can run the test on this section and find out if this is single stage or not. So let's go ahead and do that now. 2 little pieces right on there. Now, how we're gonna find out if this is single stage paint or not is we're gonna be polishing this section. Now, after we polish this section, if we get black pigment on here, then we'll know that this paint system is single stage. Because on clear coat, when you polish clear, you usually don't get much, but just clear polish on here. So usually it just clogs up the pores of the pad and you clean it out and continue your passes. But on single stage paint, you should be getting paint transfer right onto your pad. And that's how you'll be able to tell. So I'm gonna run the pass here and we'll see what this is. So right away we can tell that this is single stage paint because we got black paint right on the pad. So now we know that there is pigment transfer. So this is indeed a single stage paint system that we're gonna be working on. So now we can go ahead and define what we're gonna use on this paint. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna clean this section up. We don't wanna just assume that this is what we're gonna go with. We wanna step back and see what the other steps are gonna do to the paint. Maybe the Menzerna 3800 and the black pad work great, and that way we prevent from removing so much paint from the vehicle. We want to remove the least amount of paint as possible from this vehicle. So we want to take the least aggressive step first. Now this was just to test it. This was just to make sure that if it is single stage paint, then we know by the transfer of paint onto the white pad, we're not going to be tackling the vehicle with this pad just yet. We don't know if this is what's going to work, so we're going to have to test it and find out. While I was removing the polish from the door, I realized that another way that you'll be able to tell if this is single stage paint is you would get paint transfer onto your rags. So as you can tell right here, there's black pigment from the paint being transferred onto the rag when I wiped off the polish. So that's another way how you can find out if this is single stage or not. All right, let's take a look at the paint. There is a heavy dose of micro marring on here, and it seems that it's a little bit too aggressive. So now we're gonna have to step back and find out what else works on this vehicle. So now you know that combination does not work for this. So we're gonna have to step back and find out what else we can do about it. All right, so now that we know it's single stage paint, we're gonna have to work backwards. So we're gonna have to go with the least aggressive approach and see what the paint is like and see if it responds well to the least aggressive approach, such as the black pad and the Menzerna 3800. So as you can tell here by looking at this paint, it is very swirled. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a piece of tape here and I'm gonna divide it. That way we can get a 50-50 and we can see if the pad and polish combination is actually working. So let's do that now. The 3800 and the black pad worked effectively once again. So this is indicating that this is soft paint as it was with the Shelby GT 500. Now we understand that this is soft paint. It is single stage paint. So now we have a combination that works effectively. We know what we can use on the rest of the vehicle in order to give it a nice shine, so we can proceed and know that we're not gonna be removing a lot of paint because it is a fine polish, but we're still gonna get great results. Now, it did leave light imperfections behind, but we don't want to get too perfectionist on this paint. This is a 1990 vehicle. I rather preserve the paint that it has. This is the original paint that it has on the vehicle. We don't want to do a repaint. We don't want to remove paint. We want to preserve as much as we can so that we can keep it in its original state. Now, when it comes to polishing the rest of the vehicle, you're gonna have to work extra clean. As you saw in this pad, the transfer of paint is rather quick. I barely did 2 or 3 passes on this vehicle with this pad, as you saw, and it collected this much paint. Now, when we put this pad back on the paint, we're gonna be rubbing paint against paint, and it's just gonna work against us. It's gonna create haze, it's gonna create micro marring. It's just gonna not work effectively this way. So you're gonna have to work extra clean in order to have a clean environment and clean cut on the paint. Now that's where the complications come along. It's a little bit trickier than it is with clear coat. It's a little bit more finicky. So this is one of the cons of having to work with soft paint, soft black paint, which it's soft as well. So it's even trickier. All right guys, so that's pretty much it for single stage paint restoration. Now this vehicle is going up for sale as soon as I'm done working on it. So if you stay till the end of the video, now you know. So if you're interested in purchasing an LS400, this one's going up for sale. It is a black on black, so it's one of the rare ones nowadays. So if you're interested, I'm gonna leave the owner's Instagram right here, right here, so you can contact her and get a hold of her and see if you can work something out with her. So I'm gonna continue working on this vehicle. I got a lot of work to do still. So if you find this video informational or at the very least entertaining, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, peace.